Do you want to read Lord of the Rings? Or do you want to be the person who has read Lord of the Rings? Do you want to read Monte Cristo or Moby Dick or Infinite Jest? Or do you just want to say that you're the type of person that read these books? This is, I think, the danger with TBRs. They can become not a list of books we actually want to read, but a list of books that we think we should be reading. It's a projection of the ideal person we see ourselves as. It creates an anxiety around the whole reading process, and it frames it in such a way that you no longer have this freedom of choice with books. You have this finite list of books, usually from the same genre or from the same one or two genres, because you start reading a sci-fi book, and then all of a sudden you start looking up the best sci-fi books to read or similar books. And before you know it, you have 20, 30 sci-fi books on your TBR. So this, in ways, can make you stick to just one genre. And it's really not a good thing in the long run. It also takes away the mystery of what the next book should be. And when I talk about TBRs, I'm not talking about, 10, 15 books you have on your bookshelf that you haven't read yet. I think every bookshelf should have a little bit of mystery left in it. That's the joy. But I'm talking about these long lists of, digital list of books that you need to buy, 200 books in your Amazon basket. This doesn't need to exist. I understand if there's a really special book out there that you think you might want to read, but I think many of our TBRs are focused around books that we think we should be reading. And recently, about 3 or 4 months ago, I completely dropped my TBR. I just forgot about any books that I need to read or should be reading or think I should have on a make-believe list that's enforced by myself. And what I noticed is this transition happened when I started reading War of the Worlds, and this was my second attempt at reading War of the Worlds, and I noticed that I wasn't really enjoying it, but it was on my TBR, and I'm a sci-fi fan, so how could I not have read War of the Worlds, right? And I realized that this book, while I can appreciate what it is historically and what it did for the genre, it just wasn't a very good read in modern day. The way it was written is a little bit distant for me. The main character is seeing everything in the distance. Every side character you meet is there for 1 or 2 sentences and then they're gone again. And it's more like a reported account of what happened rather than an actual story, which for the time was probably genre breaking, but for me now, not that interesting, honestly. And I already know the story of the War of the Worlds. I think everyone knows this by now. I won't spoil it just in case, but I think everyone knows this. And there just wasn't much left for me to get out of this book. And it was my second attempt. I didn't make it any further the second time. And I DNF'd it. And I allowed myself to really let go of this book. And before, when someone asked me, have I read War of the Worlds, even though I had attempted to read it, I would have said, no, it's on my TBR. I still need to read it. But now if someone asked me, I think I would say, yes, I've read it. I didn't like it. I DNF'd it. This is why I didn't like it. And it's still an interesting conversation. And I still consider that I have read the book and it's done. Not that that's important, but I still consider that. And then the second revelation came in a more positive way when I picked up Altered Carbon for the third time. And I had tried to read this 2 times before, both times getting to around 40% through the book, both times giving up. And the reason I gave up was I was rushing through the book, basically. I was loving the world, I was loving everything about it, I loved the premise, I loved the characters, but for some reason I just wasn't enjoying the book. And I dropped it, and then I got the idea to read it again because I really did like the book. And then I started from scratch again because it had been some months. And the same thing happened again. I kind of dropped it and moved on to something else. And I noticed that it was this anxiety the whole time of jumping to the next thing. It wasn't that I wasn't enjoying the book. It was that I had this pressure of all of these things in the future that I have to read. So I have to get through it quickly because how else could I get through my TBR? But something shifted when I picked it up this time. My mindset had shifted a little bit. I had slowed down with the book a lot, and I had really taken my time and enjoyed it for what it is. The result of this is that the characters were sticking with me more. I had more memory of what was happening in the book. I was enjoying it more. I was creating more visuals in my head of the world. In what felt like no time, I was 150 pages through this book. And to get to this point of 150 pages, I remember this process taking much longer in the past. Maybe this was because I had this anxiety and I was constantly thinking of other things that should be going on, or I was just not caught up in the book or caught up in the moment, and I was constantly eager to get on to the next thing. Since deleting my TBR, I don't think I would ever go back to having one. I do still have these 10, 15 books, as I mentioned, that are in my library that I haven't read yet. And if yours are 20 or 30 or 40 or 50, that's also fine. But I don't have this infinite digitized list of what I'm going to read yet. And I don't really know when I will get to these 10 books. Altered Carbon I'm reading at the moment, of course, but these other 10. Next, I'm thinking of maybe The Expanse, maybe The Dubliners by James Joyce. I don't know, and that's the beauty of it. I will finish Altered Carbon because I'm really enjoying this at the moment. I will maybe watch the TV show after this, and then I will see what mood I'm in and what I want to read next. And if it's nothing from this list and I buy something new to read, that's also fine. There's no pressure. I haven't done this just with books, by the way. I've also gotten rid of my pile of shame for gaming, my watch list for Netflix or anything like this, and I've just unsubscribe to this book challenge TikTok culture of all of these recommendation lists. You know, you can watch one TikTok and you have already 1 year's worth of book recommendations. It's insanity, and it takes away this mystery. And reading should be this self-exploration of what you enjoy, you know, and it doesn't have to be a top 10 bestseller or something like this to take your interest. It can be anything. It can be from an indie author. It can be something you find secondhand in a bookshop that nobody's ever heard of. You know, I think back to when I was 16 and one of my favorite books, Blood Price, was something I picked up in the bookshop. And this was some 20 years ago. And this was a time where we couldn't even check on the internet for, you know, what book should I buy or the best horrors to buy or something like this. You just went to the bookshop and whatever your local bookshop had, that was what you read. And of course they had a lot of the classics and a lot of the greats, and these were well-known books at this stage. It wasn't like we had never heard of them. But you also didn't go to the internet to find out what you should be reading. You went on this self-exploration. And I think that's really important with reading, that you go through books you like and don't like by yourself. Since deleting this TBR and just getting rid of this whole concept and this anxiety behind it, I find that reading is much more intentional now. I'm much more in the moment. I'm getting so much more enjoyment out of it. I've fallen in love with reading again since doing this, basically. So if there's one thing that you take away from this video, I would implore you to just slow down, concentrate on the book you're reading, really soak it up. And if you're really not enjoying it, there's no shame in DNFing it. Allow yourself to DNF this book. Remove it from whatever pile of shame you have or TBR you have, and just go by feeling and just pick the next book based on how you feel. And I think you'll find you really start enjoying the reading process again.